Hi all, welcome to day 2 tutorial. On day 1 we just discussed about classes, attributes and methods, instance of a class, initializing a class, calling methods for the instance of a class and calling methods for the class, right? Now in this session what we're going to discuss basically about is class variables. So this is part 2 of object-oriented programming series with Python. Class variables. Now, if you look at it, we already declared variables in the previous session. Then what was the need to discuss class variables separately here, right? So let's look at it. Now, if you look at it, the initialization phase has 3 variables, first, last, and salary. And here I'm just creating an instance of a class and passing in 3 variables, 2000, right? Virat, Kohli, and 2003 variables. Now, sometimes in your organization, right, when you create multiple instances of a class, you would want to have the same variable applied to all the instances. As an example, let's say all the employees in a company need to have the same raise pay. Say example, in your company, you want all the employees to have a same raise percentage in their salary, right? So let's define that variable over here. So let's say I want all my employees to have a raise amount for this year as around, let's say, 5%. Okay. Now I need to calculate what would be the employee salary after the raise. So I'll just define another function here. What the pay would be, right? Define pay. As usual, self would be the first argument because the instance would be the first argument to be passed, and self.ant is equal to self.pay. Self.pay is nothing but the pay of the employee instance plus into raise amount into raise underscore amount. Now if I run this code and say I want to print out the employee 1's pay, emp underscore 1 dot pay. If I run this code, you will get an error because remember, raise underscore amount is a class variable, right? And you can only access a class variable either through a class or an instance, right? You can't directly access the value of a variable. Now let's run this code and see what happens. So you can see that, right? It's not able to take this variable name as we said previously. It either has to be accessed through a class or an instance. So here I would make it self.raise amount. Now let's look at the pay. So now the pay of Virat should be 2000 into, I'm sorry, and here it should be self.sal, right? So yeah, so the salary of Virat Kohli should be 2000 into 5, so which should be equal to total of 1000. So the result we should get should be 1000. Let's see what the result is. Okay, emp underscore 1. Let's see what was the issue here, right? Okay, so I didn't do any print value here, right? So I should just do a print of this value. So that's the reason why I did not get any result there, right? So now let me rerun this code. There we go. So now Virat Kohli has the raise amount applied to 10,000, right? So you've observed the difference. That now let's see the difference with another instance, right? So then you can understand it pretty much clearly. I'm creating a second instance, Sachin, Tendulkar, and his salary would be 5,000. Now if I do this to.pay, here also you would get his salary is 5,000 into the raise amount would be 5. So his total salary would be 25,000, right? So let's try to run this program. There we go. So his total salary here, as we have expected, has come to 25,000, and the salary of Virat as expected is 10,000. Now, what would happen? Now the reason, you can either place a class variable here. In this space, you can either place it as instance, self, or you can directly place the name of the class here. Now what is the advantage of placing self over here instead of the class variable name? Now let me show you what exactly. You could also just put the class variable name here and it would have the same impact. There would not be much of difference, right? But the difference would, I'll show you how the difference is, or how advantageous it is for you when you put self over there, right? Because if you run this, you would get the same thing. So the output is still the same. Now, what is the advantage of putting self over here? That is one thing which you have to keenly observe, right? So let's say I can put here emp_1 dot raise underscore amount dot raise underscore AMT. So amount is equal to 3%. Now what is going to happen is, when employee 1 instance, emp_1 instance is invoked, the raise amount will be set to 3 and it will not be set to 5, because here we have given it as self. That means whatever instance variable I have set here, it will automatically revoke. On the other hand, if I would have put class over here, then this same value would be applied globally, right? So you have to change it based on what is your requirement. If sometimes you have 100 employees and you want 2 employees to have a raise of 5%, then you could follow this procedure. But if you want all the employees to have the same percentage, you could just replace this self with something called, for the employee, the class name dot raise amount, and that would fix the solutions. That is the major difference that you need to observe in this topic, right? So now if I would run this, I would get 2000 into 3 and not 2000 into 5. So it should be 6000 now. I would get the output as 6000. Let's see. There you go. You see the difference? Previously the output was 10,000, but now it's taking the instance variable which I defined here, right? So it's basically taking the instance variable, that is 2000 into 3, which is 6000. So this pretty much is the basic difference. So just I'll reiterate everything so that everything falls in place to you. So in this chapter, what we learned is defining a class variable which is applicable to all the instances that are made from the employee class. So here I've created emp_1 and emp_2, two instances. Now both these instances will have a raise amount 5, and if I would have defined a class name like this, but here I've defined it as instance name, so if required I can modify the variable and put it over here, right? So please try to understand this. That's the major concept that you need to understand. So if you want a variable to be constant, no matter how many instances are accessing it, you can just define it here on this space and always use the class name here, and not use self if you want the variable name to be constant for all the instances, right? However, if you do not want that situation, you can just use self to access the variable here. So this is what class variables that we are learning in topic 2, part 2. And kindly, everyone who's watching this video, please subscribe to my channel. Please help us, support us, and I'm going to make all the Python videos shortly, and everything like building GUI applications, right from building databases. I'm going to put in all the articles here. Please subscribe to my channel, and also we're trying to help the poor as well. So in case you also have any doubts or anything, you can always reach out to me on my Facebook account. You can just as always, you can just type in my name, Nadhan Chakravarti, and you should find this up on my Facebook, right? So guys, thanks for watching this video, and all have a great day. Thanks everyone.